Hey everybody, welcome to another video. It's been a while since I've been able to do this. Unfortunately, someone in my family was tested positive for COVID, but thank God everyone is well now. We had to quarantine for a while. It was not an easy endeavor, but we made it through and here we are back. Today, I want to talk about something that almost seems ridiculous to talk about because it is so basic and so fundamental. But there's a big problem with it, and that is positive feedback. Positive feedback is so basic. Every kid in the classroom, if you're a teacher, every single kid needs positive feedback every single day. And it sounds so simple. And, you're probably thinking like, why in the world are you talking about this? Of course, every kid needs positive feedback. Positive feedback helps encourage kids to work harder, to try harder. It helps them develop a growth mindset. It helps them to overcome challenges and to learn what their own potential is. The list goes on and on of the importance and the value and the power of positive feedback. We've all been the recipient of positive feedback. When we're having a day, the weather here in New York is pretty rainy, pretty lousy, cloudy, rainy, not the best kind of day, not the most exciting day, not the kind of day that makes you want to jump out of bed and conquer the world. But if somebody comes and gives you a genuine, real compliment or positive feedback, it really, really brightens your day. So what's the problem with it? What's the problem with positive feedback? Why is it that so many kids are not getting enough of it? Or are so many kids not getting enough of it? And the reason is because it's so simple and it happens so quickly. We tend to take it for granted, and we very often don't even notice it. And kids can go to school and literally spend an entire day in school and not get any positive feedback, and we don't even know. We're not even keeping track of this. There's so many point systems and different ways of keeping track of different things, but to keep track of the basic positive feedback and making sure that every kid is getting enough positive feedback, that is something that has been so elusive and so difficult. So what's the answer to that? So I want to just share with you a real quick demo here on Class Stars and how we focus on positive feedback. And this is not a point system. Okay, so this is not, the point here is not that kids have to earn this. A very important difference between a point system and positive feedback is that in a point system, the points are earned. You can't give points for nothing because you invalidate the entire system if the points are given for nothing. The point of a point system is that good behavior, which is something that is positive that the child is doing, gets rewarded, and that those rewards are earned by good behavior. If you're going to be giving free points, then what do you need the good behavior for? So a point system, is earned, but positive feedback is an entitlement. And we talk about how kids today feel so entitled, but the truth of the matter is kids are entitled. Kids are entitled to certain things. And when you understand the things that kids are entitled to and the things that kids are not entitled to, if you understand that distinction, things are a lot simpler, because we can very freely and generously give kids things that they're entitled to. They don't need to earn it. But things that need to be earned, of course, if you're going to give that to them for nothing, then they're not going to do what we want them to do. We're not going to be able to use that as an incentive. If you're giving everything away for free, then why should I work for it if I'm going to get it anyway? So that's really the balance that needs to be understood, the difference between entitlements and earnings. So positive feedback is an entitlement. Every kid deserves to get positive feedback every single day. And that is something that is completely in the hands of the teacher. The teacher can take care of that all on their own. But it needs to be, you need to keep track. You need to keep track of the positive feedback. And at Class Stars, again, it's meant to use with your finger, but we're going to use the arrow here just for demonstrative purposes. And we'll put it on single swipe to keep it really, really simple. If you're only using it for this, it will be an extremely powerful tool. Anytime you give positive feedback to a kid, and let's take Norman, for example, you just swipe up on them. Just like that. It takes less than a second, and you've recorded that you've given Norman positive feedback. And the time is always recorded. So you don't need to be busy with this the entire day. You have your lesson plan, you have your agenda, you have your things that you need to cover. But there is a time of the day, you do structure your lesson, that there is the introduction, there's the settling down time. And maybe during that time, you're not yet starting the actual lesson plan and you're asking kids how they're doing. And that's an opportunity to give them positive feedback. So you go around the room and again, you can set this up, you can arrange the seats however you have your class set up. This is a typical traditional grid, but you can set them up in groups and stations, however you want to set them up. And we can talk about that another time. But as you're going around and engaging the kids and giving them positive feedback, just tick them off as you're doing it. And you'll notice that in this little meter that's on the side of each kid, every time I swipe up, it goes up. There's 7 notches actually on this meter. You see Stevie's pretty low here. Elijah's really low. And you'll notice as you're going which kids you're missing. So you have different times of the day where you're engaging kids, where you're giving kids positive feedback consciously. You have to actually be conscious of this. You give kids positive feedback and you tick it off. And you'll see that in the 2-day meter. Now, once you're keeping track of this, this becomes super, super powerful because number one, you're going to notice the 1 or 2 kids that you might otherwise not notice. And those kids, it makes all the difference for those kids. But number 2, and not only that, when you give positive feedback, maybe you have some kind of a system where you make sure that you get to everybody in a particular day, but it's not going to be even every day. That's just the way it goes. But what about the next day? Do you have a system that lets you keep track of who got the least positive feedback yesterday so that they could be prioritized for today? That's pretty important too. And that's what ClassStars lets you do, because this meter is actually a 2-day meter. It keeps track of the last 2 days of positive feedback. So you're actually looking that Jess has been maxed out in his last 2 days. Kristen's been maxed out in her last 2 days. Darwin's been maxed out in the last 2 days, but Norman hasn't. Bobby hasn't. Lake hasn't. Franklin hasn't. Elijah hasn't. So you can zoom in on those kids that haven't been maxed out in the last 2 days and prioritize them. Make sure that they're getting the positive feedback that they need. And tomorrow when you come in, you're going to see the kids that have gotten the least positive feedback over the last 2 days. So we're actually giving you a bigger time sample to work with over the last couple of days. And that's extremely powerful in making sure that you're being fair and giving positive feedback to every single kid equally. Every single kid deserves the basic amount of positive feedback. But it's even more than that, because the border colors reflect the ratios, and you're going to need to give more positive feedback to the kids who struggle. And that's going to show you the orange kids, they have between a 1-to-1 and a 3-to-1 positive to negative feedback. Of course, we record misbehaviors by swiping down. So once you're done, once you're comfortable using it just for positive feedback and making sure that you're getting to everybody, you can then also use it to record misbehaviors, which we'll talk about again in another video. But when you're recording the misbehaviors, now you can suddenly work with the ratio, and that makes it even more powerful. But even without working on the ratio, let's close this class and let me show you what kind of amazing dashboards you can see for every single kid in the class in an instant. We have the snapshot dashboard, which gives you an overview of how they're doing academically, behaviorally, and attendance-wise. But let's just look at the behaviors dashboard. The behaviors dashboard will give you a bar chart next to every single child of the number of positive feedbacks and negatives that they've gotten over any selected timeline that you can pick. We're looking at October 5th through October 12th, but you can select the date range, and let's look at all sessions. So we'll pull up all sessions, and now suddenly you're looking at everybody's positive feedback rate. How much positive feedback did everybody get? This is so powerful when you're working with parents, because it's so often when kids are struggling and you need to work with their parents, if the parents don't realize how much positive you're trying to give their kid. They notice obviously the problems, you're calling them in for a conversation because of a problem, but they can't see the positive things that are going on in the classroom unless you tell them about it. And it's very hard to tell them about it if you don't have it documented properly, because if you don't have it documented properly, your chances are you're not going to remember it accurately. That's just the way it goes when there's so many things going on in a classroom and so many things that are pulling at the attention of the teacher. So that's the problem with positive feedback, is that it's so important and it's so underrated, and it does not get enough credit or attention or emphasis. And the main reason is because it's just not practical. It's not you got to be able to do it for everybody. You got to be able to do it across the classroom. It's not just identifying 1 or 2 kids that need positive feedback. It's everybody that needs it, and it shouldn't be earned. It's got to be an entitlement. So ClassStars makes it really simple to do that. If you want to learn more about it, you can download the ClassStars app on your iPad, on your Android tablet, or on your Windows tablet. It's now for free. So if you get it now, you'll get it for free. And it's going to be free for a while. You'll have it for the year. And you can join the Teaching with Positivity group, where we're having a lot of discussion around it. You can reach out to me personally. You can send me an email at info@classstars.com, or you can message me on Facebook. You can leave a comment on this video. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you can leave a comment on that video. If you're seeing this on LinkedIn, you can leave a comment there as well. So let's get positive. Let's work with the kids. Let's give them the positive feedback that they need and make every kid succeed. Take care. Have a great day.